Hello, I hope you're doing great. Today we are going to talk about real world apps with Blazor. If you have been following the channels in my um, post, you know that we have been talking a lot about Blazor, the capabilities, and how it is almost a must for people to learn how to use it because it's becoming a game changer, making systems more quick to develop, right? And still develop high quality products, which is something that is always really important for a business. And after the pandemic, it is way more important to handle better your budget, deliver faster, and have a better or more predictable source of income or revenue. So Blazor actually helps you to do that because it's great. Okay, now the thing is that a lot of what we usually see in around there, it's demos for small applications, right? Um, a small demo for like took like 1 hour or 2 hours, right? Or 6 hours, something really really small to do, right? Which is actually good for learning, but it is just the beginning of what really is a real world application. Now, what is a real world application? There are a lot, right? Usually, I would like to call real world applications to those systems that are being widely used or have the potential to be widely used by the public, especially in a business, right? So let's say systems like PayPal, systems like YouTube, systems like Google, right? Those are extremely huge, of course, right? But systems like Microsoft Learn, Pluralsight, right, Udemy, Coursera, those kinds of systems that have the potential to be widely used, right? Also native applications, which is actually one of the things that you will be able to do when Maui Blazor is officially released. Actually, you can already develop cross-platform Maui Blazor applications using Visual Studio 22 Preview, right? Um, so yeah. Now, before we continue, please remember to visit fairplaytube.pticostarica.com. Click the Buy Me a Coffee icon. Support by using selecting an amount, and this will allow us to keep the videos and products free for you. Additionally, the supporters will gain exclusive access to posts and source code that will be only published inside Buy Me a Coffee blog or website. Okay, so real world applications in Blazor, there are actually a lot. If you go to this website, which actually I found thanks to Hassan Rezk, I believe that's the way you pronounce that name. I'm terrible at pronunciation of known local names, so my apologies if I pronounce it wrong. Uh, Thanks to Hassan, I got this list. He published it on LinkedIn, right? And this is a list of a lot of websites currently using Blazor, and you see it says 14,557 uh, custom, current Blazor customers, right? Uh, People around or websites around United States, Australia, Germany, United Kingdom, right? Pakistan, France, Philippines, Canada, Netherlands, Greece, Russia, a lot of places. And you can see a little bit about how widely used they are being used, right? So you see that, for example, this one says giftcard.golfnow.com has a medium traffic, right? Um, this one has a high traffic and is emergency.www.edu, right? Let's see others with high traffic. Postpay.dropoff.github gatwickairport.com, right? And you can see there are a lot in there. Sales revenue, you can see a little bit about that. It may not be directly related to Blazor, but it's a website or a domain, as far as I understand, using Blazor that has an estimate of this revenue, right? quote.petersonproducts.com, right? And you see there are a lot. Now, you can go and download the full list. I haven't subscribed, nor I believe they sell the full list, so I haven't done that, but it will be a great idea to have it if you actually want to do some better reporting or have more details on this information. But as you can see, there are at least 40,000 websites currently using Blazor, and that is a lot. Okay, but now, what does a real world application need to have? Okay, so one of the things that I would say a real world application needs to have is client-side validations, avoiding unnecessary round trips or calls to the API. Basically, you want your web application to validate all of your inputs as much as possible so you don't do a round trip to the server so it just gives you an error because I don't know, the length of your string is greater than what is supposed to be, so the server gives you an error and you need to modify the text. You can do that in the client side and avoiding having to execute that round trip or that API call, right? Localization is actually something really, really important. Now it depends, of course, in the kind of application, but it's always a better idea, and I actually consider it a must. If your application is going to be local or just for you, localization may not really matter that much. But if you are going to publish an application, especially if you are an entrepreneur and that application you want it to be used around the globe, you will find yourself with a common issue everyone knows. A lot of people will only know how to speak or read their native language. I live in Costa Rica. Costa Rica is actually considered to be uh, really well or good, really good or well educated country, right? And we have a really good education system in here. And still, there is or there are a lot of people who do not know how to speak English, which is actually one of the most common spoken language around the world and in Costa Rica itself, right? So most jobs actually are requesting people to be bilingual and meaning speak, of course, their native language, Spanish or the local language, and at least English, right? And still, a lot of people just do not know how to speak English because they haven't had different reasons, right? They haven't had the chance, right? Um, they they may find it really difficult, right? There are a lot of things, right? But then when you know that you will find that kind of issues, and if you are an entrepreneur or if you are publishing a system that you want people to use around the world, you need to figure out ways for those persons speaking only their native language to have the possibility to use your application. Localization is a way to do that because you will have your applications outputting the text or even the audio in the language of the person using the system. So that's actually another feature that I think real world real world applications must have. User authentication. Now it also depends, but it's usually really common to use it. If your application is going to be totally public, you don't need to have user authentication, right? But if you want to have user-specific functionality, right, preferences, content, right, uh, special features, right, things like that, be able to easily communicate with your users, using user authentication is actually a must, right? Permissions, role, or policy-based authorization. Basically, give access or deny access to specific features on your system based on their permissions, role, or assigned policies, right? This is vital if you want to have things like roles or specific functionality, subscription-based features, right? For example, um, some features for Plan A, some features for Plan B, and some other features for Plan C. Depending on the plan the user select, you will map that to roles, policies, or permissions, however you actually develop it. And you do that with authorization frameworks, right? Analytics. Analytics is one of the vital pieces that you need to have on your systems, especially if you are going to publish your system or you want to have global users to be using your application, especially if you do not have immediate access or direct access to those users. You need to understand how your systems are being used to enhance it and also to recognize any issue that you may have or that you may have in your application, right? So you need to have things like checking which pages are being visited, right? How they are navigating from one page to other page, how long they are staying in one page. Are they having any activity at all in that page, or they just navigated to that page and left? That kind of things will give you enough information about how your application is being used, detecting issues, right? And giving you some information to improve. Errors logging. This is vital. Errors logging is basically something that every single system must have since the development phase. Basically, when you are developing, one of the things that you need to do is creating some structures. It doesn't matter where you store it, you will decide how to store it, right? But you need to have some structures where you will log, capture, or persistently store every single error that your application has recognized. Store it in there, store the full stack trace in case of .NET, where the error came out from, store the message, right, and all of the information. If you want, even log the actual request that the user was executing at that moment, like the URL, the body of the post, right, if it was a post, or the guest, right, or the guest URL, the parameters, everything you can. But that's something that you must have from your development phase, and this will allow you to easily fix any issue that you find in production. Actually, when you do that in development, you will find that the amount of issues you will have in production is considerably less than what you will have by not having them since your development phase. Automated testing. Automated testing, integration testing, unit testing, end-to-end testing, right? A lot of testings, right? That's something that every system should have, right? And this will allow you also to prevent a lot of issues. And also, it will allow you to verify that when you do a change, your system keeps working as expected. Because if you did your testing the right way, the testing will capture most of the issues that you will have if you did something wrong editing your code. Notifications to users. Okay, so you need to have notifications like those notifications, right, in your application, or in case of systems, you can have like the browser push notifications. That one, however, you need to be careful with or not depend on that because, for example, I am a person that always deny the browser push notifications. I do not like to have applications giving me communicating with my push notification system in the browser. If they want to send me something, show them as part of the HTML page, but I always deny the access to the push notifications in the browser. A lot of people do that too, so that's something you need to be careful with. Uh, Also, you can use SignalR notifications, but you need to, SignalR will only send a message to your SignalR client, and you need to find a way to render it, which again you can use with Toast notifications, right? In platform feature requests and feedback. Okay, so when you publish a system, any kind of system, if you have a lot of users, one of the things that you want to have is having features in your system that will allow your users to request features or give you feedback, right? So that's the vital feature that you need to have. Okay, so we already saw that we have this list of real world applications in here. If you want to see a lot of other applications or even demos that you may exist on Blazor, you can go to GitHub to Adrian Torres repo for Awesome Blazor. And Awesome Blazor has a lot of links of demo projects, libraries, extensions, real-world applications, videos, trainings. It has pretty much everything about Blazor, right? And you will see a lot of great content in here. This is kind of one of the most recommended and widely used websites to learn about Blazor, right? A lot of different techniques. One of the cool mix of real world application with base template for creating Blazor websites is actually Blazor Boilerplate. Blazor Boilerplate basically it's boilerplate, right? It's basically an initial template that you can use to create your Blazor application on top of this existing template. And this template gives you a lot of already configured stuff. It already has support for localization. It already has support to for different authentication providers, right? It has support for your users section or areas, as well as administration areas, right? Depending on the user that log in. Uh, it supports a couple of databases as far as I remember, right? And it's actually really good. Initially, it's a little bit not as straightforward to configure it, right? But it's not that bad, and it actually looks really good. And as you can see, it already has some great controls from Matt Blazor, the original, right? The original version of Blazor Boilerplate uses Matt Blazor, as I remember, right? And you have pagination in here, right? And you can do a lot of cool stuff in here. Actually, one of our customers decided to use Blazor Boilerplate to create their applications, and it's working well. Okay, and of course, FairPlayTube. FairPlayTube, you can see it. FairPlayTube has the free version, which is only for personal purposes. Um, has a GitHub repository, and in here you can see a lot of the code in here. It already has support for localization. It already has client-side validation using the models data notations or data attributes, as you can see, for example, in user requests, for example, create user request model, you can see that it uses display attributes, right, which are actually using the data notation approach, right? And it has already enabled the localization for a lot of the code. It also has authentication provider. It uses Azure Active Directory B2C or business to consumer. Um, the localization is actually automatically generated, and a lot of the resources are actually automatically generated too, at least the initial resources, based on some custom attributes that we created. So basically, you start the application, it starts looking for all of the resource key attributes. It checks if they exist in the database. If they not, it inserts the base attribute, and then it starts getting default translations from those. And in the near future, we are actually planning to create the management section for that part, so you can edit the automated translations, right? But basically, at the moment, you can just do a small tweaks, add new cultures, and the translations for those new cultures will actually be created automatically, right? It already has also automated tests using a test server, right? And in-memory database. So it already has a lot of cool stuff in there. It uses role-based authorization too, so you can see a lot of cool stuff in there about what a real-world Blazor application must have. Also, it has some branch with some initial tests for creating the Maui Blazor application that we will launch next year, so people can actually use FairPlayTube from their smartphones and even easily upload videos from their smartphones. Actually, they can already upload videos from their smartphones using the website. However, with a native application, you don't need to go and input or type the URL for the website, right? Though you can, at the moment, you can avoid that by just saving that application as an icon in your mobile smartphone, right? Which is kind of the default way in which a lot of people do that when there is no native application. But we will create the native application with Maui Blazor once it is officially released. So those are some of the things that I consider real-world applications must have, right? If you know any more things that a real-world application should have, feel free to let us know in the comments. And thank you very much for paying attention to the video. And remember, visit fairplaytube.bdicostarica.com, click the Buy Me a Coffee icon, and select a donation of your preference. This will allow us to keep the videos and products free for you, and supporters will gain access to exclusive content and source code that will be only published in the Buy Me a Coffee website. Have a great day.